Welcome to this week's episode of Weirdos Like Me. I am your chief weirdo, Dr. Shannon. So I have coffee here with me right now, and I'm just going to say that almost every time I film, I have coffee with me. I make it right before I go to film, and then I put it to the side and say I'm going to drink it, and then it just sits there the entire time. So I'm not sure why I did it again today, but I'm going to put it in front of me this time. So maybe I'll remember to drink it. I don't know. Or maybe I'll just knock it over. So that might be a bad idea too. But anyway, let's get back to today's episode. All right. So I'm going to approach today's topic in a bit of a different way than I have previously. So I'm actually going to split this up into two different episodes. Once I started prepping for today's podcast, I realized just how large of a topic this is. And it doesn't actually make sense to try to skimp out on the details just to shove it all into one episode. So I'm going to split this up and do two parts because I really, really, really want to get into this topic. Okay, so here we go. Let me start by saying that I literally used to roll my eyes at people who said that they were highly sensitive or empaths. I'm sorry, told you I was going to be super honest. And here it is. Okay. I would super hard eye roll. I always thought that people were using the term highly sensitive or empath as an excuse as to why they couldn't regulate their emotions. Ha ha ha. Funny. Joke's on me. Turns out I was the one who didn't know how to regulate my emotions. So it was easier for me to just turn them all the way off versus attempting to work through something that might have came up. So then I just projected it and said, oh, hey, those people can't regulate their emotions. They're just using it as an excuse. Funny how that works sometimes. Now, I used to think that I shouldn't feel sad, not even that I shouldn't let sadness show to the external outside world. I told myself that I wasn't even allowed to be sad unless there was a viable, if you're not watching, I use that word in quote, okay? If there was a viable reason. And, doing something like watching a sad movie, listening to a sad story, or listening to a sad song, or anything, that occurs in life that people tend to get emotional about, or anything like sappy, were not viable excuses in my book. Basically, somebody had to die for me to think that it was okay to be sad. And even with that, I felt like that, you're allowed to be sad for a set amount of time and then you need to get over it. I hope you guys don't think I'm a horrible person by saying this, but I told you I'm going to just be real and authentic. And this is what was going through my mind for so many years. Now, why did I think that I couldn't experience sadness? I equated sadness with weakness. I thought that if I was sad, then I was obviously weak. Like a strong person wouldn't feel sad about a sappy movie. A strong person wouldn't feel sad over a breakup in a relationship or about missing somebody. A strong person wouldn't be sad about anything. Okay, they would just let everything roll off of their shoulders and move on. I mean, the layers of BS right here are so thick that you can cut through them with a knife. I hope you guys are picking up on that. So here's the truth. It actually takes a higher level of emotional intelligence to fully embrace and experience an emotion, no matter what it is, not just sadness, but to actually feel it, to experience it, to let the frequency and the vibration of that emotion course over and through your cells, tissues, and organs, and then to process it, to heal it, and then move on. That takes a high level of emotional intelligence. And a lot of times we just don't get exposed to developing that. So let's pause for a second. I want to make sure that I am fully making my point here. It's not healthy to experience an emotion, let it hang out in your cells, your tissues, and your organs, and experience it over and over and over again without processing it, healing, and moving on from it. Okay, so there is a difference. There's two ends to the dichotomy here. So on one end of the spectrum, you can encounter a situation where your conscious being wants to experience an emotion and instantly I guess for lack of a better term, blocks it. Now, you can't really block an emotion. Emotions aren't this external outside force, and you don't have some Captain America shield that you can just whip out and bounce the emotions off in their consequences, right? That was really nerdy. So yeah, there it is. Anyway, now I'm just picturing people like whipping out Captain America shields. That would be kind of cool. Anyway, all right, squirrel. So your body still receives the emotional field, whatever vibration frequency is associated with that emotion. But if you don't let your body process it, then it will take that frequency and that vibration and it essentially quarantines it away. Guess where your body quarantines this? Oh, in your spinal cord. Hence, chiropractic adjustments can actually affect and help your body process emotional trauma, but that is a topic for another day. So I'm just going to put that little plug in there to get adjusted. Anyway, your body then stores that emotion in your system, waiting for a time to be able to safely process that emotion out. The key is that at some point, it does need to be processed out. You can't just quarantine and stuff away forever. So think about it like this. Let's say you're going on a trip, but you don't want to pay to check your bag at the airport. So you say, I'm going to fit everything that I need into my, oh my God, what's it called? Carry-on luggage. Okay. I do this a lot because I just don't want to deal with the checked bag. So you're going on this trip and you put, a week's worth. Well, let's say you're going on a week's trip, but you put 2 weeks worth of clothing in there because you have to have backups, right? You don't know, maybe I need this shirt, maybe I need that, blah, blah, blah. You put shoes in there because, you need several pairs because they have to match the potential outfits that you have. And PS, you won't actually have this problem if you establish a personal uniform like we talked about in last week's episode. But for sake of this example, let's just say you go a little overboard, right? And then you add in accessories. So you're going somewhere cold. So you want scarves, hats, gloves, and then you put all your toiletries in there, right? So, you put your shampoo, conditioner, hair products. If you have curly hair like me, you pack your own blow dryer because you want the diffuser and you want all these other things that they just don't typically have in hotels. Okay. Now you realize that you need a fancy jacket and a casual jacket because you might be going on business meetings. So you put both of those in there. And then you've got the sweatshirt that you're wearing at the airports that you're comfortable. So anyway, your carry-on luggage is packed tight. You basically have to sit on it to zip it up and pray that TSA doesn't ask you to open up your luggage because the only reason you got it closed was by some supernatural force that you are pretty sure you cannot recreate to get it closed again. I say this from experience because I literally did that on one trip. I was sitting on my suitcase to try to get it closed. And anyway, different story. So can your luggage handle that much stuff? I mean, it can, but should it? If you look at it, the zipper is close to bursting. Okay. It is straining to hold that in. There's no more room for anything else. So ideally, you would clear a couple of those items out so that your luggage zipper isn't straining to keep everything contained. What happens then when you go on that trip and then you find some things that you want to bring back with you? You try so hard to fit them into that stuffed luggage, right? So again, you're sitting on top of the luggage, you're jumping on it to smush it down, whatever it is that you do to get that zipper zipped. And then what's going to happen? All of a sudden, one of the zipper links, I think they're called, whatever those little zipper things are, one of those things is going to bust. And then the whole zipper is going to come undone. And now there's clothes spilling out of your luggage. Now your luggage is ruined and you are SOL unless you go and purchase new luggage to be able to bring on the plane with you. So although your luggage worked really hard to handle all of the things that you were stuffing in there, without your help of clearing some of that stuff out at some point, it reached a point where it can't handle it anymore. With an inanimate, inorganic object like luggage, it just breaks. Okay. It's really not that big of a deal, except that it's kind of a major inconvenience when you're on a trip and you need to go buy new luggage just to get home. In an organic living organism, however, like a human, when your body takes in so much stress, which, if we're using metaphors here, it's like the clothing items in your luggage example, right? When it takes in so much stress that your energetic tank is full and then eventually overflowing, like the luggage, because it's tapped out, then our version of breaking is experiencing some type of symptom. Now, if you're lucky, the initial symptom will be something kind of minor and not debilitating. So something like an ache or a pain. Some people get tension headaches. Some people experience digestive issues like an upset stomach, or maybe your immune system is affected, right? So you might get a mild cold, or you might just feel under the weather. However, if you don't address the luggage when it's straining to stay closed, when you start to feel that little minor ache or pain, or that little minor tension headache, or whatever it is that we say to ourselves to make ourselves feel better, then you keep ignoring it, it's eventually going to bust, and you're going to potentially experience huge symptoms. This is where things become, quote unquote, diagnosable. They're bad enough to have a name. Until things are bad enough to fit a disease category, we tend to ignore them. We keep stuffing more clothes into the luggage. We sit on it. We jump on it. We smush it all down because, well, ultimately, we're still getting the luggage to close. So why worry about clearing anything out? Unfortunately, sometimes it takes the luggage bursting wide open with clothes spilling everywhere before we realize that we need to make a change. Okay, that was actually a really huge sidebar from the two extremes of dealing with emotions. Yeah, that was an interesting example. So anyway, that was scenario one, right? You encounter situations that should require some type of emotional response, and you suppress that response and you shove it deep, deep, deep down into your spinal cord and into your being until it explodes and overflows. Now, scenario two, the opposite extreme, you may experience or encounter a situation that requires a certain emotional response, and you do experience that response, which is good. However, you experience the response over and over and over again. You get stuck in a cycle, in a pattern. So yes, you feel and experience the emotion, but you never truly process through it and heal from it. This isn't totally healthy either. For example, when it comes to sadness, this is where, that state of depression lies. There's one thing to be sad situationally about something that happens, but it's different to continue experiencing that sadness over and over and over again to a point where it's debilitating, and then it affects your ability to live long term. You can and you should be sad about something bad happening, but if you're unable to process it and heal it, and this lasts for weeks, months, years, that's a whole separate thing that needs to be addressed. Okay, separate sidebar. Can we address long-term debilitating depression by medicating to patch up sadness? I mean, sure, we can. Is it always the best, healthiest decision to do it this way? Not always, right? Now, if we took that luggage that, bursted at the seams because we filled it too full with clothing and shoes, and then we shoved all those clothing items and shoes back in, and then we wrapped the luggage with bungee cords, and then we duct taped it closed so that we forced it closed. Did we get the clothes back in the luggage? Yes. Did we fix the ultimate problem? No. Did it temporarily relieve the symptom of not being able to hold the clothing? Sure. But at some point, you're going to need to fix that zipper, and then you're going to need to take away some of the excessive items that was causing that zipper to bust in the first place, right? So why am I even talking about luggage, right? This is the same with our emotional well-being. Can you temporarily help your body feel better with alternative substances? Yes, you can. Should you do this forever, or should you remove some of the layers, causing the luggage zipper to strain and eventually bust? That's up to you to decide. But I will say that the only way to process emotions in a truly, truly healthy way is to embrace the emotion fully, to feel it, to then be able to process and heal from it. almost as if, once it's over and the situation, you're out of it, you can kind of look at the situation as a third party viewer. You can look at it from the outside, have sort of this omnipresence about the entire situation and your role in it without having that emotional attachment to it. So that's a healthy way. Like if you can do that, then most likely you have healed in a healthy way from the emotion attached to that situation. If you're looking back at a situation and you still get emotionally charged up about it, chances are there's still something working through in your system that you aren't truly fully healed from yet. So staying stuck in an emotion isn't healthy either. In both of these scenarios, one where you attempt to block the emotion and not feel it, and then one where you feel the emotion, but you're constantly feeling it over and over and over, you're not utilizing emotions in the way that emotions are meant to be used. So your outcomes aren't going to be genetically congruent with, what our outcomes should be. So how are emotions supposed to be utilized? If you want to get real technical, the dictionary defines an emotion as a mental reaction that is subjectively experienced as a strong feeling, usually directed towards a specific object and accompanied by a physiological and behavioral change in the body. So one of the really important parts of this definition is that the last part, the part that says the feeling is accompanied by physiological and behavioral changes in the body, that's what I want you guys to key in on. Everything in our bodies happens for a reason, right? Nothing is just spontaneous. Nothing is haphazard. Nothing happens just because our bodies just feel like making random physiological reactions occur, right? Like our bodies aren't bored. It doesn't just do things because it, wants some entertainment. Even quote unquote bad reactions that we've been told, that things like our body is attacking itself or your body, that organ just isn't working like it should. Yep, those reactions are also not accidental. They are a response to something, okay? Just because we may not be clear on what the body is responding to doesn't mean that the body is doing it by accident and that it just doesn't know what it's doing. Anyway, another different topic. So getting back to emotions, if emotions are accompanied by physiological and behavioral changes, the question that we should be asking ourselves is, why do these changes occur? They occur because an emotion is a response to a situation. And the emotion is the body's way of preparing your body's physiology for a reaction to that situation. Emotions are genetically hardwired to aid in our survival. So let's talk about fear as an example, okay? So when you get scared, what happens to your body? Your heart starts beating faster, your blood pressure increases, your pupils dilate, you get this butterfly feeling in your gut. Sometimes it may be like an extreme butterfly feeling, and then you're actually nauseous and you start to sweat, your breathing rate increases. Oh my goodness, increases. You become hyper aware of your surroundings. And, lots of other things happen, but let's just stick with that for now. So why do these things happen? Let's think back to our ancestral days. So fear was a response to something bad happening, i.e., something threatening our survival. This could be encountering a hungry animal like a tiger or a bear. So yeah, you're kind of scared for your life there. Or encountering, let's say you encountered an opposing tribe and then, you needed to fight for food or territory or whatever it is that our ancestors fought about. Obviously, they weren't fighting about who gets to choose the Netflix movie for movie night though, right? Like if our ancestors were scared, it was for something legitimately threatening their survival. So our bodies became genetically hardwired to switch on an instant response so that if we did encounter something like a hungry bear, we don't have to consciously think about what to do. Our emotion will drive our physiology to allow us to appropriately react with the goal of either, fighting back or running the heck away and getting away from the situation. So yes, if we're scared, it makes sense for your heart to start beating faster and your blood pressure to spike. Your heart needs to pump more blood out to your muscles and to your limbs very quickly so that you have enough energy to use those muscles to run or fight. Your pupils are going to dilate so that visually you can take in more of your surroundings, because you need to be more aware of what's going on around you. You know, you need to see, are there other hungry tigers or bears coming at you from different directions? Do tigers or bears have, do they see? I don't even know anything about this, but let's just say that they like hunted in packs and did stuff. I don't know. But anyway, you need to see this, right? You need to see in the distance to see if you can maybe figure out an escape route. So that way you can start planning how to run away. Same thing happens with sound. You start to get a hyper sense of awareness of sounds for the same exact reason. So that way you can hear what's going on, and that way you can help yourself survive. You're going to start increasing the rate at which you breathe, because your body is trying to take in more oxygen faster to help support the increased need for running or fighting, whatever makes the most sense at the time. It all makes sense, right? Now, genetically, once we utilize that physiological cascade that our emotion has started, we drop back down into parasympathetic mode, which is also known as rest and digest. Essentially, we burn through that increased energy fighting or fleeing, and then our body rests and recovers. So what happens if you experience this emotion, you experience this physiological cascade, and you don't burn through that energy in an appropriate way? Say you have a big exam and you get so nervous and so scared and worked up prior to taking it. You take the exam, and then not an hour later, you're back in another exam right after that you're nervous about. And then you have to run home to work on 3 assignments that are due by 8 o'clock that night. And it's already 6 p.m. So you have no idea how you're going to make that deadline, and so on and so forth, right? Are you ever really burning through the physiological responses? No, you're just piling one on top of the other. And in addition, you're not giving your body time to rest and recover after each event. Is it your fault? No. I mean, that's just how today's world is. We are so blessed and so lucky that we don't have to worry about dodging hungry bears or tigers as, you know, their potential midday snack. Well, at least most of us don't have to worry about that. I mean, some people do that kind of stuff for fun, but not me. I enjoy my modern tent, AKA, you know, an apartment with climate control, washer and a dryer, dishwasher, and no bears. Except when my toddler is pretending to be a bear. But anyway, no real bears that can eat me. So we don't have as many of the original stressors that our ancestors did, but we have new ones that come from our modern world and our modern way of living. So things like school, exams, work, bills, family drama, traffic, relationship problems, juggling 1,000 schedules, all of these things have the potential to invoke fear, and our bodies are going to react the same way as if it was a bear coming to chow down on us, you know, whether it's the bear or whether it's that your rent is due tomorrow and you need to pay it. So what happens if you experience an emotion and you never work or burn through it, and your body is reliving it over and over and over again? What do you think your physiology is doing over and over and over again? Yeah, so this is where emotional trauma that's not processed and healed can lead to chronic physiological health problems. And then when this goes on long enough, it can lead to diagnosed diseases. Today, well, let me pause here for a second. So far we've talked about what emotions are, what their purpose is, and then 2 different scenarios regarding how we respond to them. So one scenario may include experiencing an emotion, well, actually encountering, like you get an emotional response to something, not allowing your body to truly feel it, and then you stuff it far, far down and away. And then a second scenario may include experiencing an emotion, allowing your body to feel it, but not processing through it. So you're essentially reliving the emotion and you're reliving the physiological response over and over and over again. Both of these scenarios can lead to chronic emotional and physiological fatigue over time. So what the heck does any of this have to do with actually being an introvert and empaths and all that other stuff that I was talking about earlier? This is where I'm going to pause, and we're going to talk about this next week, because this is just such a big topic. And all of this stuff we talked about today just helps build the framework for being an introvert and an empath, and how to deal with emotions in a healthy way, and how to know whether you fit into this category. So be sure to like this episode and subscribe so you get notified when we release this episode live next week. And other than that, this is it for this week's episode of Weirdos Like Me. I am Dr. Shannon, and I am signing out, and I will see you guys next week. Oh, and I totally forgot about my coffee. So, yep, I'm going to go reheat this now because I did forget. Somebody tell me not to make coffee before it shows anymore. Anyway, all right, you guys, I'll see you next week.